Alrighty, welcome to the UFC 221 post-fight wrap-up. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. I'm joined as always by Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. And as I said off the hop, we are here to recap UFC 221, which went down from the Perth Arena in Perth, Australia. Just now, it wrapped up just half an hour ago or so. Before we get to all of the action that went down under this evening, Jed, how may you be right now?
I'm good. I didn't watch all of this fight card. I had it on the whole time, but I wasn't paying attention to some of it.
So then what are you doing during some of these fights? Because there were a few lackluster ones.
Tonight I was hanging out at a friend's house. I threw the fights on my laptop, just kind of in the background and playing gin rummy, and just hanging out, drinking, talking. You know, same old, same old.
Sounds like a decent Saturday night. Gin rummy and fights. Can't complain.
Well, you know, it's I'm too old to go out anymore. I don't do that, so I stay in and play cards.
Fair enough. Well, we had a partial interim middleweight title fight in the main event of UFC 221. And of course, what I mean by that, and all of you know what I'm talking about unless you were under a rock yesterday, Yoel Romero versus Luke Rockhold went down tonight. Yoel Romero, though, yesterday missed weight by 2.8 pounds. Therefore, he was ineligible to win the interim middleweight title should he get past Luke Rockhold. And that is exactly what he did. We had Yoel Romero defeat Luke Rockhold by knockout punch at 138 of round number 3. Yoel, third round, Romero continues to be maybe just the greatest mystical character in all of mixed martial arts. Okay, so let's start with our best fight of the night before we talk about the main event. We'll certainly talk about that a bit later. But so again, since this is the second time we're doing this post-fight wrap-up thing, I'll just sort of explain how we're going to break this all down and how we're going to get from start to finish. We're going to go through a bunch of different topics, give out some awards, so to speak. We'll go through best fight of the night, worst fight, finish, surprise moment, storyline, and so on. We'll get to a few others after that as well. So we'll start out with the fight of the night. Jed, what was your fight of the night of UFC 221?
Man, as I kind of look over it here, Matthews Lee ends up getting the award, the bonus award, and probably just is it, right? I mean, nothing else was a great back and forth fight. We're looking at mostly dominant decisions. I could throw out Jumo Abe. I wouldn't hate that. Abi, I don't know how you pronounce that actually, because Abi really he should have won the first round. I think he did on all cards. Yeah, and I think personally he probably should have had a 10-8 round there. I thought he was beating the hell out of Jumo in that round 1, but then he either gassed or whatever. Jumo made adjustments and kind of came storming back. So I'd be happy to give that fight of the night just to be a little different and to not award Li Jiangling with a fight of the night bonus since he gouged the man's eyes out.
That's true. That is a fair point. I do have to give mine to Jake Matthews. His unanimous decision win over Li Jingliang. He, of course, was featured on the main card. He got the job done by unanimous decision, 29-28, 30-26, and 30-26. A couple iffy scorecards in the eyes of most people. I was on MMAdecisions.com. I believe we had 22 media members give their scorecards for this fight, 18 of which gave... Am I thinking about the right fight? No, I'm thinking about Curtis Blades. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about, but never mind. Forget about that for now. Anyways, Matthews did get the job done, and it was a pretty dominant unanimous decision. But I feel like Jingliang Li offered enough to make it entertaining, make it a fun fight, and fairly back and forth, although the scorecards were pretty clear in favor of the Celtic kid. Matthews had takedowns. That was the big moment. Or deciding factor in this fight. Matthews was able to control Lee on the ground for a lot of this one. Lee did, though, fight back with strikes and eye gouges as well. And that's something we'll get into a little bit later on in the show. But this was a back and forth fight. This was super fun. Admittedly, I'll probably end up going back and watching this one, or at least I'd like to. Probably won't, just because, I always say I will go back and watch fights, and I just don't. I was writing an article during this one, so I caught, I'm going to say like 12. I missed a little bit of it, but from what I saw, super fun fight. And in a card where there weren't too many contenders for fight of the night. For what it's worth, going in, I had Brown Kim as my fight of the night. That did not live up to my expectations. I also thought Formiga Wen could win that award. It did not either. So a little surprising Matthews, Jin Young Lee took it, but in my opinion, they were the fight of the night. And if I am correct, they won fight of the night officially from the UFC as well. So I guess we're in agreement on that one. Let's go completely flip side. What was the worst fight of the night?
Tough call here. I mean, Dong Kim, Damian Brown ended up not being good, which was unfortunate. Same with, I mean, basically any of the prelim card fights, other than I guess Jumo Abe, because I thought that was, fight of the night ish worthy, just because it was back and forth sort of. Pearson Hirota, I barely watched any of it, and it seemed super boring, so I'm going to say that.
I'll give mine to Jose Quinones's win over Truto Ishihara. I didn't enjoy that fight really at all. I think Brown Kim is another good one as far as the worst fight of the night. I wasn't that happy with Jumo Abe, but it was definitely a step ahead of the other fight past early prelims. Pearson Hirota, can't disagree totally with that one as well. That was not a good fight. So there's really three that stood out: Brown Kim, Pearson Hirota, Ishihara Kanones. Throw them in a hat, pick one, and that's kind of good. But I think maybe the worst, if you're gonna pick one, I'll go with Ishihara Kanones. Not a great performance from either guy. I expected Kanones would do a bit more. And then on the other hand, True didn't do much at all. So, yeah, not a very fun one to almost kick off the card. That was the second fight of the night. Let us move on to the finish of the night. There were a few contenders here. I know Yoel Romero's knockout of Luke Rockhold was very impressive. I don't think it's a walkaway for the finish of the night. Maybe you'll say otherwise. What was your finish of the night?
Yeah, I say Yoel Romero's knockout of Luke Rockhold was the finish of the night. If only because, I mean, you can argue. I think the fight probably would have been stopped before the follow-up right hand from him, but that follow-up punch was one of the single most vicious punches I've ever seen. Like, it's one of the most vicious punches you'll ever see, and so 100%, that's the finish of the night for me. He didn't end up getting a post-fight bonus. I imagine that had a lot to do with missing of the weight.
That's all. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what it was.
But yeah, absolutely savage follow-up shot on the ground. So I'll give it.
Yeah, maybe as I was leading up to this one, I was maybe or it seemed like I was hinting at maybe I wasn't going to give it to Romero, but I don't think you can go anyone else. Yoel Romero, yeah, he missed weight, but that doesn't. We're not punishing him on our post fight wrap up award show, if you will, for missing weight by 2.8 pounds yesterday. So Yoel Romero, I mean, that was a vicious knockout. The left hand, kicked things off, and that follow up punch while Rockhold was up against the fence. It's weird. We have seen similar, like as far as where Rockhold was positioned right as he was getting clipped, or after he got clipped the first time, very similar against Romero and Bisping. His head was up against the fence, but he was still sort of leaning against it. And man, I would assume that angle and just getting clipped to the chin by a huge punch Romero that must be one of the most damaging shots you can suffer. And so that was the finish of the night.
I'm fairly confident if the cage wasn't right behind his head, that his head would have just flown into the third row. Like, he just murdered. That was a Mortal Kombat uppercut.
Yeah, I mean, that really was insane. So Yoel Romero doesn't get the bonus, but definitely gets our finish of the night here on the post-fight wrap-up. Surprise of the night. To me, there weren't a whole lot of these, and so mine, not the most shocking results ever we've seen, but still, there were a couple things that surprised me, and I just didn't see coming. Were there any for you? What was your surprise of the night?
The only surprise of the night was Luke Juno beating Daichi Abe to me. I mean, I ended up going, I think, 8-4 on my picks for this card. So I was wrong on several of them, but I am not surprised by most of the outcomes. Like Romero knocking out Rockhold, not a shocker. I think everyone knew if he was going to win, that's how he was going to do it. Jake Matthews beating Li Jiangling. We talked about it on our pre-fight show that was a much closer fight than the odds indicated, and that Jake Matthews could, just kind of win with better countering and using wrestling to control the fight. And what was the other fight I got wrong here? Oh, Formiga Ben win. Again, it's not surprising. Like, I thought Ben Win would be able to not get engaged in scrambles. I was wrong, but I knew that if Formiga was going to win, it was going to look a lot like that. The only fight I did like actively just have a bad read on was the Luke Jumo Daichi Abe fight. I just thought Abe was a better. I just thought he was a better striker. And for the first 5 minutes, that fight went how I thought it would. But Jumo made the adjustments, and good for him. Tired him out, took him into deep waters, ended up winning down the stretch and winning pretty cleanly down the stretch, putting on some points on him at the end there. So that was the only thing that really was a surprise to me.
My biggest surprise, and we had the same picks. If anybody watched before the battle, we had the identical picks other than Rockhold Romero. So I mean, again, other than that, we had the same. So I missed on Formiga, I missed on Jumo, and I missed on what
Abe.
was the Abe? That no, yeah, I said
Yep.
Jumo, Formiga,
Oh well,
and
Jumo,
Matthews.
Formiga,
There you go.
Matthews, Lee's young
And
man.
so my top two was one of those three results we got, or I got wrong. One of them would be Matthews. It's not going to be the one I give my surprise of the night to, simply because I know, like, I was relatively confident in Lee to get the job done tonight, which he, of course, didn't. But I knew in the back of my head that Matthews is a good grinder. He's getting good on the ground. He's a good wrestler. There is a good chance. I know, Lee has been a bit of a ground artist in the past. Like, I mean, with his whole Leech nickname, that's sort of what he did back, a few years back. But he's turned into a striker, and I just figured there is a chance Matthews can take him down and win there. But I'm going to give my surprise tonight to the Brown Kim fight, not because Kim won. I picked Kim; he was the favorite. No surprise there, but that wasn't a good fight. That was very lackluster. Not a whole lot happened. I mean, bad performance from Brown. I don't give Kim too many props for that. I mean, he landed some leg kicks. He did some good things, I guess, but man, I expected, maybe this is on me. Maybe I expected way too much from this fight, and I probably did. It's like, two sort of middle of the pack guys in the stacked lightweight division, but I thought it would be a banger. Again, maybe that's just me looking too much into Brown's fight of the night last year against Frank Camacho. Maybe that's me looking too much into Kim's fight against Polo Reyes a couple of years back. I don't know. I just expected a lot more from this one, and I was pretty surprised that I was looking more at my computer than the television screen when Brown Kim was going on. Next fight, or not next fight, but next thing, moment of the night. I actually struggled to find one, to be honest. I like, we had some good finishes, but there wasn't one thing. I mean, there were a few things, but there wasn't, like, I don't know. There wasn't one moment that really stood out among the rest where we're going to be talking about it, in weeks in the future, so to speak. But I guess that's sort of to our point that 221 was pretty shallow. So not a ton happens. Not as far as the meaning of this card goes. We saw some good performance, particularly on the main card, but does any of this matter other than maybe a couple fights? Not really. What was your moment, though?
I mean, Rockhold, the way Romero knocked him out, it's early in the year. That's a front runner for, like, that is currently your knockout of the year. Like, as of this moment, that's the knockout of the year. And, I don't think it will end up winning because there's so much time left and it's not the best knockout ever. But the aesthetics of it are great. I would not be surprised to see that in the top 5 knockouts of the year. Like, we're going to talk about that knockout going forward. We won't talk about the rest of this card at all. But, yeah, that's definitely the moment, is that.
In a card, again, where not a whole lot happened, in the other meaningful fight, Curtis Blades, Mark Hunt, Blades got the job done. It wasn't the most pretty fight. So I have to say my moment was yours as well, Romero's knockout over Rockhold. Not just because it was a great knockout, as far as the looks of it physically, but also it sort of proved that Romero, hey, he's 40 years old, but he still looks like a freaking superhero. He is still, here to bring it, and he's still one of the best middleweights on the planet. Clearly, probably not the best middleweight as long as Robert Whittaker is around, but the guy still has what it takes to be a threat to anybody in the division and maybe even up a division. And so I think that sort of proving point seals the deal for me as far as Romero's knockout of Rockhold as the moment. And keep in mind, missing weight, that didn't help sort of his chances, I think, although facts would actually say otherwise. Fighters that have missed weight in 2018 are 3-0 in the UFC. But also him as an underdog, I don't know. I feel like some people were counting Romero out here. And so I'll say Romero's knockout of Rockhold was the moment of UFC 221. What was the storyline? Again, in a card where there just weren't too many meaningful fights. Again, a bit of a tough one. We might go back to Romero. I think I'll just start things off here, and I'll say my storyline, or at least one of the two I could think of, was sort of the whole should we celebrate Romero's win because he missed weight. He was punished by not being able to win the intermiddleweight title tonight, so that's fine. I mean, I agree with that. Should he get the title shot in a rematch against Robert Whittaker? I know some people were saying, okay, whatever, give it to him. There's no other clear contender, which is a true point, and it's a good point, but it's sort of going the other way. I mean, take away the interim title shot from him, but give him a real title shot. Like it's a legitimate win. And I know there have been certain wins. Josh Emmett's over Ricardo Lamas stands out, where you have been pretty vocal as far as, hey, this guy shouldn't be ranked above Lamas because he didn't fight him at 145. So Romero knocked out Rockhold at 187.8. What does that mean for the division? Should he get another title shot? So that's sort of my storyline. I think that's sort of the big talking point coming out of the UFC 221. Is that your storyline as well? Feel free to respond to that, and if not, give us your storyline of the card.
I mean, I agree. That's the storyline of the card is the middleweight division, the middleweight title picture, because it's clusterfuck. This was the worst possible outcome for them. If Rockhold wins, it's a clear cut Rockhold versus Whittaker that will determine the best middleweight on the planet. Now they're in fucking they're not in dire straits. Romero's going to end up getting a title shot. I hate it. Part of me does dislike the fact that Romero didn't do his job, and that there's a piece of me that thinks these guys shouldn't fight if they can't make weight. I hate that. But more to the point, I hate it because we just saw Romero Whittaker. Like, we literally just saw it less than a year ago. If they rebooked that for the summer, I don't know what Romero's leg is like. He seems to have injured it to some degree. How long he'll be out, whatever. But let's say it's a quickish turnaround. His leg doesn't take much to heal. They rebooked this for in the summer, sometime International Fight Week or something like that. That's a year. It's literally 1 calendar year to watch a fight that was a close competitive fight, but I don't feel like it's going to go any different, maybe even more lopsidedly in favor of Whittaker. It's fine. It's going to be the end result. Nobody's going to die. Everything will be okay. But they just don't. It's part of the problem with how they handled all of this. Like, I love Robert Whittaker. I think it's fine for him to be the middleweight champion. I also think that he shouldn't have been the middleweight champion. I don't believe they needed to make an interim title fight between him and Romero last time. And now that they did it, they felt obligated to promote him after GSP vacated. But realistically, once GSP vacated, they should have just been like, all right, we're gonna have a tournament now. Like, that's how this should have been really handled. Like, we'll have a tournament for the top 4 people in the division. We'll match them up in a way, and we'll go forward. Now, in the end, we've got Romero who's gonna get another title shot. Kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? It's fine. Romero gets a title shot. Whittaker beat him. And then, we can continue on with regular course of action. Gastelum will have more time to work his way to a title shot. Maybe Weidman can get in there, and we can get some new challengers for Whittaker.
Ultimately, I do think Romero will fight Whittaker next just because the UFC doesn't care about doing the right thing.
Dana White already said it. This is 100%.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was going to say that as well.
There's no one else for him to fight. There's no one else for him to fight.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if Jacare was maybe on a 2 or 3 fight winning streak, he's getting the next shot.
If Jacare had a couple of wins, sure.
You could argue maybe you do Weidman Whittaker because it's a fresh matchup, but the guy is on a 1 fight winning streak over Gastelum, and before that he had 3 losses.
Look,
so
I'll be actually honest with you. If you want to do Weidman Whittaker now, it's not great, but I don't hate it. I actually do like that better than Romero, which I know is stupid, but personally I like it better than Romero. Because Romero is on
it's a fresh fight. Yeah.
Simply because
it's tough.
It's a fresh fight. Both of them are on 1 fight win streaks, and I would be very okay with them just being like, fuck it, Weidman, get in there, go fight, and then redo Jacare Romero, let Romero fight, get down to the middleweight limit, have a full camp, because that is the one thing that we should say, I think, is that he didn't have a full camp to get here. He had to fly all the way around the world. Does change things a little bit for his blown weight. It's not been a perennial issue for him, but let him fight. Let him fight Jacare, get back to get his weight back, and then the two of them can fight. Because I don't feel like we should have this kind of urge to call for either a rematch for Jacare Whitaker or a rematch for Romero Whitaker. Whitaker beat both of them. He beat Jacare very soundly. He beat Romero pretty soundly. And fuck, I would be fine to see Weidman get in there, get new blood. Those two can fight it out for the next title shot. And the winner of that rematch, a fight that was close, that many people thought Jacare won, the winner of that has a much better argument to get a second shot at Whitaker, I think. That's not what's going to happen, but I'd be very okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. Again, they're gonna do Romero Whitaker too, and I mean, I'm not gonna argue. At the top of my lungs, do I totally agree with it because he missed weight? No, but at the end of the day, let's be honest. Romero is the second best middleweight on the planet, proven by fights. I mean, sure, maybe Jacare might pull it off in a rematch, or who knows. But as of right now, Romero appears to be the second best middleweight on the planet, and so we know the UFC doesn't care about things like, oh, this guy missed weight, so let's do something about it. That's just not who the UFC are, or is, I should say. And so we're going to get the title shot and whatever. Should it happen? Probably not. But again, I'm not going to complain too much. What was the takeaway of the card? Again, I guess this sort of goes back to the storyline, although I think that there is a difference. What was your takeaway of the card?
I have a different takeaway than the storyline. My takeaway is a takeaway I've had for the last 5 years, and I'm reminded about it constantly. And it's that the UFC are extremely bad at their jobs. Their job is fight promoter, and they suck at it. Because I mean, you could argue that this whole card is kind of indicative of how their complete, utter misunderstanding of what they do by making this a pay-per-view. Like, this thing is going to do less than 150,000 buys guaranteed. I personally think it's going to do 110, 150.
I actually think it's going to do under 100, which is
there's no chance.
Insane.
There's no chance it does under 100. Almost no chance. I would genuinely be shocked by that, because 100 is sort of their baseline at this. I mean, look, the Bellator fucking pay-per-view did 100. This thing's going to do 100, but it's going to be abysmally bad, and it would have been a very good fight night. And it's just that part's indicative of why they suck at it. But really, the takeaway to me is, dude, everyone deep in the game, everyone on the Twitter family of MMA people, were all about one thing this week, and it wasn't the title fight. It was about the debut of Israel Adesanya. This guy is awesome, and he's super fun to watch. And the UFC did nothing to promote him. And some people took some shots at me in my Twitter about saying, oh, what do you want them to promote? They did nothing until the day before they finally put one tweet out being like, hey, look at this guy's awesome. They could have been firing out on their social media accounts like, this dude's coming. They could have been doing anything. They could have put up a fucking story on the UFC.com homepage. There are ways to promote people outside of cutting a fucking TV ad for them, and frankly, more effective ways, because TV is not the marketing tool it once was. They could have done a number of things. They could have tried to get him into the media spotlight in some way, shape, or form.
He should have been at Media Day.
Yes, he should have been. He 100% should have been at Media Day. They should have run stories on him at the thing and done a small video package on him to post on their website. There are ways to make him fucking relevant and to get people excited about the prospect of watching this guy. So then, because he's fighting on free TV, that's the rub here. He is on television that people can see. And so then when people be like, hey man, I saw a tweet about this guy who fucking kicked this dude's head off and it was awesome. He's fighting tonight. Awesome. Well, before I go out drinking with my buddies, I might not catch the pay-per-view. I'm going to tune in and watch this dude to see if he's as cool as they say he is. And they would have been paid off for it.
Because does anybody other than MMA hardcore Twitter know who Israel Adesanya is? Of course not.
Fucking clue. And now some people know because they saw that, and then they're like, all right, that's cool, and maybe they'll check for him next time, but it will be less people because they didn't put in the work beforehand, and they would have been paid off on doing it. They put it in beforehand. He delivered a great KO and a great post-fight speech, and then people would have been interested in this guy and checked for him later. And that's how you build stars. You do that, and then you put him on TV again. But unlike some people saying, put him in against Krzysztof Jotko. No, you put him in against another guy who he's going to nerf like a fucking video game.
I would pick Jotko if they fought tomorrow.
I would never put him against Krzysztof Jotko. That's the stupidest thing you can do with him. Don't put him against a ranked guy. You weren't around for Pride, but let me tell you, the reason Vanderlei Silva is so beloved is not because he fought a murderer's row of fighters and beat them all. He fought great competition and beat them, but in between, he fought fucking cans and he styled on them, and people think about it like, man, when people talk about Mirko Krokop left right kick hospital left kick cemetery, they're not thinking of the times he fought the elite fighters, though occasionally when he did, Alexander Emelianenko got colded, but he also fought a bunch of fucking tiny scrubs and murdered them, and then people got excited about him. There's a reason to promote people, and we have 150 years of fight promotion plus of boxing promotion to draw on, and forever the plan has never been put these guys against the toughest competition forever and that'll make people care. It's not. People could care about Israel Adesanya and they missed their first opportunity, and they're probably going to keep missing opportunities to make him and just hope he ends up being John Jones. But most people aren't John Jones and can't just style on the best fighters in the world when they're 22.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say that the UFC did okay as far as Adesanya, and too little too late, they put him on the pay-per-view. Right after Romero Rockhold wrapped up, they aired the fight. So that's great. I mean, it's actually not great. It's okay, because let's be honest. If this was a 1 million pay-per-view selling card with GSP Bisping on it, with all these title fights, and then they air Adesanya, great. That'll give him some pay-per-view exposure, maybe give him, exposure to casuals that maybe just will just watch the main card and skip the prelims. So that's fine. But it doesn't help nearly as much on a card where I personally do think it's going to sell under 100. It's not going to sell over 150. That'd be crazy to me. I'd be very surprised, honestly. And so I don't know how much that helps. I mean, the people buying this card tonight, this main card, are the hardcore of the hardcores, and they're already watching the prelims most likely. So I don't know how much that actually helps, but I guess it's better than nothing. But
exactly, it's better than nothing. So give them credit for doing that one small thing.
But generally, they didn't do enough. Far from it, as you said.
Yep, 100%.
All right, let's move on and talk about the worst officiating. And I'm not sure this is up for debate.
Oh, really? Who do you think won it?
I guess I'll lead things off.
I don't who do you think won it.
So I don't know the ref's name, but whoever was refereeing Li Jingliang versus Jake Matthews, man, oh man, that was not good at all. What round did it happen? 2?
I believe it was 2 when he pulled the guillotine.
That sounds about right. Jake Matthews had Jingliang in all sorts of trouble. He had a submission. I don't know if it's locked up. It looked pretty tight. Jingliang was surviving. He wasn't tapping. Maybe he would have been okay. But he ended up getting out of it by gouging Jake Matthews in the eyes with 2 fingers. And the referee, I guess, pulled his arm back a little bit as if, hey, no, you can't do that. I'm going to tug your hand back.
He did the cage thing where fighters grab the cage and he swats at the hand a little bit. He did that. Much.
I actually thought for I didn't realize what was happening live. I just saw it on replay. I thought he was just checking if Jingliang was unconscious. I think that's what I was thinking anyways. And so I a little confusing, but man, check out the video or check out the picture.
I've seen it.
That is disgusting. No, not you, but people listening. That is disgusting. If you haven't seen it.
He's knuckle deep in. He's knuckle deep in there, man.
It's really incredible. I mean, shame on Jingliang for that, because
no shame on him. Good for you.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, you have a good point. Cheat all you want. That's something I've always said. So I mean, I guess good on Jingliang for the only thing is that it didn't work. I mean, he didn't win the fight, so it's like he cheated, got out of a position that he might have had to tap in. So I guess it was okay. But let's be honest, it's still a dick move. And although, I mean, it's sort of, there's sort of that, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like the fine line. Are you that much of a dick, or was this smart? And I can see both sides, but at the end of the day,
you're fighting for money. You're fighting for money in your family.
That's why I always say cheat. I mean, you're gonna have more success if you cheat. And let's be honest, Lee, he didn't get choked out. He just lost his decision. So there is an argument to be made that this eye gouge helped him. I think that's actually not debatable at all. It definitely helped him. And so I think the shame has to be more so on the ref. The ref, I mean, I saw some people saying he should have been disqualified. I guess that's accurate. I mean, at the very worst, you take like a point or two.
Here's the thing. I'm just going to go into mine because I'm not going to pick this ref. I think that that's very defensible because I think at the end of the day, I do believe that was bad refereeing. But I am also willing to cut him some slack because, like, who the fuck saw that coming? Like, that's the thing. Like, this isn't like a common foul. It's not a thing that you see, like, oh, like you see eye pokes, but they're standing. It's not like, oh, that dude's in a guillotine and kind of struggling and just gouges his eyes. And but he didn't do it in a way that really felt like it was like an intentional eye gouge, but it clearly was like he was trying to get out and pressing into the eyeballs. So I can understand being a bit sort of kind of caught off guard and not making the right call in a pressure situation that you aren't really prepared for. I can understand that. I agree. I think it should have been. I think it raised an interesting kind of consideration here because I sort of am with the people who think that you should be disqualified for it. I think if you commit a foul that essentially stops you from losing the fight, and we can argue whether that guillotine was tight or was a fight finisher, because I think that it might not have been a fight finisher, but we won't ever know that for sure because of the foul. And so in the same way that like if Luke Rockhold hadn't fallen over and then died, but had fallen over and then like immediately crotch punched Yoel Romero coming in and it kept Romero from killing him, I sort of think that we should be disqualifying fighters for intentionally fouling to save themselves from losing. But I think certainly in this instance, what should have happened is if because I don't really know the rule book kind of cut and dry ruling on how to handle that and if a DQ is viable in that option. But I certainly think that should have, if he was going to let the fight happen, take a point at some point for that egregious foul. But at the end of the day, even as bad as it was, it didn't affect the outcome of anything. And so my choice here is also a thing that didn't affect the outcome, but I think is less defensible because judges should fucking know better. 2 judges gave Curtis Blades 30-26 scorecards. And while I commend them for 10-8 rounding him, because he earned a 10-8 round in that third frame, it is unconscionable that they thought he won the first round. Like, he had a solid round with top control. Mark Hunt almost knocked him unconscious. Like, there's no debate that Curtis Blades was in a bad way, fought smartly and got out of it. But if somebody almost knocks you unconscious, you lose the round unless you also almost knock them unconscious. And that is something that they should be prepared for. I wish I knew who it was, but as we found out during this card, the Australian Commission just doesn't disclose who the judges are and the scorecards they turn in. So that's fun. But yeah, so I'm going to either give my poor officiating to Australia, just in the commission for that being a rule of theirs, or to the 2 judges who decided that Mark Hunt almost KOing a man does not win him the round.
I was in the big minority here. I actually gave Blades the first round, and so
yeah, I saw that. You're insane.
Hey, that's coming from a man who has a lot of weird scorecards over his time of scoring fights, and so
my scorecards make sense if you consider them as a grouping, and that I don't score based on the rules. I score based on my personal set of rules. But scoring under any criteria, not giving Mark Hunt that fucking first round is kind of weird to me. It's
I don't know.
The most
I thought it was really
scorecard, but it's bad.
And this isn't based on, Blades got a takedown or 2, and so control over damage. I don't look at that at all. I mean, Blades, I'll go back and rewatch the first round, the end of the first round, but I mean, once Blades gone on top, I mean, there's a lot of ground and pound in there. I think, there were some spots where I don't think it was necessarily.
Blades landed 9 punches in the first round to Mark Hunt's 11.
Really?
Okay, per fight metric.
Wow, maybe I really do need to go back and watch this.
I did more punches and almost knocked him out with his punches.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I hallucinated 30 extra punches, but I mean, I thought there was a lot more damage from the sounds of it.
He had 3 takedowns
here
because he had the takedown and then the ride back down. So like he had control, but I mean, I think that's a bad scorecard personally.
before I say any more about the scorecard, I will go back and watch it, and that's something I will do. I know I said the same thing about another fight, but I will go back and watch that end of the first round. Pretty much after Blades lands the first takedown. I just realized that I forgot to give my takeaway of the card because you started talking about Adesanya. I responded and we moved on to officiating. My takeaway is actually going to be about Curtis Blades as well. To me, the biggest takeaway here is that Curtis Blades is like a legitimate heavyweight contender. I know a win over
I
Mark
told you
Hunt.
that beforehand.
This is interesting because a Mark Hunt win in 2018 doesn't tell me a ton, but like it still to me solidifies Blade's status as this guy's legit because I wasn't impressed by his performance against Daniel Omielanchuk in July of last year. Like that was the one where he could barely land takedowns. I think he maybe got one, and his striking just looked still really raw. Curtis Blades looked really green, and that's okay. But I just really wasn't happy with that fight. The win over Alexei Oleinik was good, although there still was that controversy with, was it a illegal upkick and all of that. Ended up being a first round TKO win for Blades, anyways. Basically, it's doctor stoppage, I think it was, and so I think this one really solidifies though the fact that hey, Blades has a future in this division. He's still young, and he's turning. I mean, he's kind of the Francis Ngannou, but different styles. I mean, Ngannou doesn't have a ground game. Blades has a very good ground game. Blade striking needs work. Ngannou obviously very vicious on the feet, but both guys are still promising. And I think Blades is definitely he's obviously at the high point of his career, but I think the win over Hunt, even though Hunt's never been known to have great tools off his back, so to speak. So if Blades got him down, I mean, we sort of all expected this, but I still think it was a big win for Blades. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It was big, and so that was my takeaway on this
I want
card.
to respond to a few things of that. One, this was a thing that I thought about during the card, but I didn't really per se because I didn't know how to phrase it. But of the heavyweight division is an old division, and a lot of guys who have been around for a while have been hanging around. I have been impressed by Mark Hunt's ability to improve and stay relevant. The way he has aged has been much better than most of his contemporaries. And I know that kind of a lot of those people are still, in the rankings and well received heavyweights. But I feel like Mark Hunt, even if there were a better crop of young heavyweights, I feel like Andre Arlovsky, for instance, if there were a lot of better young heavyweights, I don't think Arlovsky's hanging around the top here. I think he got ousted. I think Alistair Overeem probably still is kind of in that way, but I think Mark Hunt also, even if there were a lot more young people, I think he would still kind of be relevant despite the fact that he's almost 44 years old. He has aged very gracefully. And so I do think a win over him is impressive, regardless of the fact that he's old, for Blades. I also think that I told you beforehand, Blades is a legit heavyweight, and I feel even better about that now. I
Yeah,
think that we are.
that's sort of where I'm at. I mean, I knew, like, I picked Blade, so this wasn't surprising. I expected it wholeheartedly, but this sort of was that in my mind reassurance almost that Blades can go far.
Yeah, I was super impressed with his performance for a couple of reasons. One, I said it after the fight. I think I would have thought this beforehand, but now I definitely feel like Blades and Ngannou are likely to be kind of the next generation's Kane JDS. Maybe with kind of role reversal there a little bit, but I do think that those two guys are destined to have a trilogy of fights with each other, or at least have a rematch. Maybe Ngannou still wins, but Blade showed a ton of improvement. He has a hell of a chin on him. He has now eaten big shots from Francis Ngannou and Mark Hunt, and
Yeah, that's true.
battled through it. But more importantly to that, when Hunt had him hurt, Blades did not just spam takedowns. He didn't just go, "ah shit," and start shooting, which Hunt would have been much better prepared for. He kept throwing enough to make him be respectable in that moment, despite the fact that he was in a very bad way on the feet. Baited out an overextension from Mark Hunt and then ducked under. Like, it was impressive fight IQ. I think he is growing and getting better time in and time out, and I am excited to see him as a heavyweight going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it was a smart fight from Blades. I mean, he knew that, hey, Hunt can knock me out. He realized that in the first round for sure. He got that first round or first hand experience of Hunt tagging fighters, and so it was a very smart performance from him. He mostly uses his wrestling top heavy game to get the job done in the later round, but it wasn't like it was desperate shots or anything, as you sort of touched on. Like, we saw that, yeah, he tried to work his jab, a couple times. He tried to, strike with Hunt a little bit. And so it wasn't like he was just desperate for takedowns. And like, I think one fight that really stands out that was like that was when Esparza lost to Yoel. I mean, there's a point where Esparza is just shooting from way across the cage, and that's what you call desperation takedowns. Blades, even though he knew he had the advantage on the ground and maybe not the feet, I don't think we saw that from him. So again, very, very impressive stuff from Curtis Blades, even though a lot of people didn't think he won the first round. Let's go to our bonuses. We have the bonuses. I'm not going to say them, even though I think we both know them. Just, actually, that really makes no sense. But I wish I didn't see them, because that sort of, clouds my judgment a little bit. But nonetheless, who do you give? You have 200K to spend, 50-50, 50-50. Who do those go to?
I mean, we already established who our fight of the night was, each of us earlier in the show. So I guess my performance of the night bonuses are going to go to. You actually had a fair number of performance bonuses here, or performance bonus kind of performances. I would give one to Tyson Pedro. I think he did not get one, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that's insane. I know that, look, Saparbek Safarov is not the best fucking fighter here, but that Kimura was slick as shit. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody even thought that was like a likely course of events to happen. And the fact that he didn't get paid off on that is
Well, I
dope.
did pick Pedro by submission, but
I mean, nobody really thought that was going to happen.
no,
Like, that
it,
was
it was
fucking
a very
wild.
good Kimura, yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. He rolled that Kimura all the way through, stepped over to finish at the end. Like, I'm a sucker for a good Kimura, because when they're done right, they're dope. And he did it right, and it was dope. So give him a payday. Yoel Romero, and I know we want to talk about him missing weight, and that's fine. He delivered a knockout of the night, like a knockout of the year contender at the end December when we're talking about this. It's probably not going to win it, but it's going to be in the conversation, and so I can't not give him the bonus for it. Even though Israel Adesanya had a dope ass performance himself, if we gave an award for best post fight work of the night, due respect to Tai Tuivasa and Tyson Pedro, whichever one it was that had the dope one. I don't remember out of those two, but yeah, Israel Adesanya was great on the mic, so he would get your mic bonus of the night.
Yeah, I can buy that. It was Tyson Pedro that had the other good
It
win, where
was.
he said he was gonna
Go
go
home, make
home, drink a lot of beer, go on his motorcycle, and hopefully land a spot on Joe Rogan Experience. So can't complain with that one. Tai Tuivasa's post fight speech, on the other hand, a little. I mean, short answers,
I
and
just don't remember. I couldn't remember, and I feel
I
bad
mean,
about
it was
that.
a forgettable performance, or not performance, but speech, but not a forgettable performance. And if you might have caught this on the broadcast, he took a fan's beer and drank it out of a shoe, and so that was pretty fun as well. Good post-fight celebration from Bam Bam. My bonuses are going to go to, of course, Matthews and Jing Liang. For Fight Night, my two performances will be Juicy Formiga and Tyson Pedro. I felt Formiga, that submission was super slick. I mean, maybe I'm just a sucker for submissions. Formiga and Pedro both won by submission, but I mean, that Formiga kick that rocked Ben Wen badly, and then again, we talked about Formiga has one of the quickest back takes in the UFC. He showed that again tonight with that super slick rear naked choke over Ben Wen in round number 3. So that was really fun, and Pedro's Kimura was amazing as well. The other big contenders, as you talked about, Tuivasa and Adesanya. Okay, let us move on and to talk about the fighter to watch moving forward. I think we're going to be unanimous here. Maybe I'm wrong. There are a few options, but to me, and I think to you as well, the one that stands out is, of course, the Stylebender himself.
I mean, 100%.
Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you need to? Like, this dude was awesome, and we should watch him going forward. Hopefully, I mean, I already talked about it. Hopefully, the UFC doesn't book him against elite fighters and try and put him into a title situation immediately when we should build him and make him style on kind of shitty low end middleweights.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want him to see or see him fight Christoph Jocko. Makes no sense to me, or anyone in the top 15. Give him another, maybe give him, hey, a guy making his debut. Why not? 1-0 versus 0-0. I dig that. Give him another guy who's maybe 1-0 in the UFC who doesn't have nearly the potential. I mean, yeah, this is a fair sport, but this is how you build stars. And Israel Adesanya has star potential, but if they feed him to the wolves early, that's not going to be good. I mean, that's why the UFC hasn't built a star for so long. I mean, imagine Paulo Costa versus this guy. I mean, yeah, this guy's good, but I mean, he's proven very little as far as the talent he can beat. He's proven enough where it's like, okay, we see he can beat lower level competition, and he beats them so badly and in so impressive fashion where we think he can beat top guys too. But do we know that for sure? Like, I would pick Paulo Costa to beat the brakes off this guy just because I haven't seen enough of Israel. Not because Adesanya is not good. I think he has all the potential in the world, but we just haven't seen enough of him. And so I think giving him a top guy right away is nuts. And
Here's who you book him
UFC's
against,
probably going
right?
to do it.
Here is who I need to make sure that I'm not insane when I think this. No, I'm not. Okay. What you do is you don't cut Alawala Bang and you book him against Alawala Bang and then you cut Alawala Bang
Yeah,
Like,
I can dig that fight.
like that fight would be fucking dope. And Israel would end up KOing the shit out of him. It would be awesome.
Or you do LSU to Chico. That's not big, that's not too big of a
That's
step
fine.
up.
That's fine too.
Yeah. Because I think Bamboza, he was cut already, so
He was, but sign him again. Who the fuck gives a shit? Sign him back and throw him in there against him. See what happens.
UFC can do anything they want, and I guess, yeah, attest to that. Someone in the comment section, my screen went blurry again. I don't know why the hell it does this. I need to get my computer checked out. But I believe he says, have you ever seen Hunt get manhandled like that? If you don't mind, just go in the chat and confirm that's exactly what he said. I think it was, but
Hold on.
yeah, I
I
mean,
have to go to YouTube to do it because I am
whatever.
not checking.
I'm not in. It doesn't matter. But even
I'll
if
look into it. I got it. Let me.
we have seen Hunt manhandled like that. Stipe Miocic beat the brakes off him in 2015. I mean, this was his
Yeah, I
first
mean
decision
Stipe
loss, but I mean,
Miocic.
we've seen Hunt beat badly like this before.
Yeah, I mean Stipe beat the living shit out of a Hunt in a much more violent way on the ground. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because that fight should have been stopped like 2 rounds earlier, if we remember
Brock did the
correctly.
same thing here. He just didn't almost. I mean, he even had this sort of kind of. Frankly, I said beforehand that this fight was going to look a lot like Brock Hunt, and I stand by it. Hunt had success in the second round against Brock. I think Hunt won the first round of this fight against Blades, but the fights otherwise looked pretty fucking similar, actually.
Yeah. All right. Fight to make. Is there one fight with involving at least one winner or loser on this card that you want to see them paired up against next with?
I don't particularly give a shit. I'll give you a couple that I'm not stoked on, but like in general, I would like Juicy Formiga to fight Demetrius Johnson next. Um, I know this isn't like the best win of a flyweight career, but Formiga is basically the only guy in the top 10 that DJ hasn't thumped up. And I like it when fighters clear out divisions like video game style. So yeah, and frankly, Formiga is a guy who he deserves that sort of Dan Henderson, Michael Bisping kind of and give him a career worth of title shot. I think Formiga deserves that. It's a good enough win. I think that he's on a 3-fight win streak now. And it appears now, I'm not breaking news here, but it appears that they might not go for the DJ TJ super fight anymore. If I'm hearing things that perhaps they are trying to move on from that, aside from in part because of the way TJ reacted to the like Cody Garbrandt thing, and the UFC they can be vindictive. I don't know if that's how that will wash out. They could end up being like, fine, let's not cut off our nose to spite our face here. But I would not be surprised if they decided to book Demetrius Johnson against Jussier Formiga and make TJ defend his belt instead of doing the super fight for these guys. So I'd like that. I think Curtis Blades versus the winner of the Verdum
Lewis Tybura.
Volkov.
Okay.
For Curtis Blades versus Lewis Tybura is fine too. I was just sort of thinking that if you do Verdum Volkov winner versus Curtis Blades, that would
That's sort of like a
sort of,
number one contender.
yeah, kind of a number one contender bout right there to go at Stipe. But match him up against anybody in the top, and that's fine too. Is there anybody else that like needs it? I don't give a shit. Like I could not care less who they match. Tai Tuivasa, Cyril Asker, Jake Matthews, anybody up against. The only other one who like we should probably kind of match make for would be Luke Rockhold. Give me Luke Rockhold versus Jimmy Manuwa. Has Jimmy Manuwa fought since he got knocked out? Has he done that?
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, give me Luke Rockhold versus Jimmy Manuwa. Rockhold's talked about maybe moving up to light heavyweight. I don't think he has to. I think he can stay at middleweight. But
I'm not
there.
against it if he does. I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, frankly, I could see if Bisping wasn't retiring, I could see doing that trilogy bout right now. That would make a little bit of sense to me. Considering Bisping's coming off 2 losses in a row and they can have a score to settle. But I think we are likely at this point to see Bisping versus Machida for his retirement fight. Both men are into that. If you wanted to do Gastelum versus Rockhold, that's not the worst, but I think at this point, Rockhold move on up to light heavyweight. Cormier is abandoning the division to go up to heavyweight. Uh, it's an open division right now, and I frankly think most of the top middleweight should just move up to light heavyweight. I've said for well over a year, Chris Weidman should be a light heavyweight. I think Rockhold should just make the jump up too. It's a shitty ass division. He can have success there.
My fight to make going forward after UFC 221, it was one that you mentioned. It is Demetrius Johnson versus Juicy Formiga. Formiga has deserved a title shot in the past. He's sort of that elite gatekeeper at 125 pounds, but he fended off Ben Wen tonight. I know he's only won a couple in a row, Yuta Sasaki, and now Ben Wen, but in a flyweight division where DJ beats everybody, 2 wins in a row over top 15 guys is usually enough for a title shot. If TJ doesn't happen, I don't know who you give him. Like, yeah, there's Henry Cejudo, the rematch you could do. I wouldn't be against it, but I wouldn't mind Cejudo getting one more because let's just be honest. I mean, does that rematch go differently? Maybe a little bit. Like, I could see it being a bit more competitive, but at the end of the day, it's not a new fight. We've seen it, and the end result is or would be relatively similar. Then, of course, you can do the trilogy with Joseph Benavidez, but Benavidez hasn't fought for a long time. I don't know where exactly he's at. As of December, he was recovering. He had a bad injury, and he's been off for a while. So I don't know where Joby's at. So you can't really even include him in the title discussions right now, even though he still is ranked number 1, which is kind of weird considering his off time. But I think you do DJ Formiga. It's made sense in the past. I think the time's now. Is Formiga gonna give DJ many challenges? No, but hey.
I'll tell you what. One thing about that fight that I didn't mention before, and that I think we probably aren't like I think people forget is you remember back you weren't around I don't think for Anderson Silva's reign, but like people were in or at least a certain section of fans were excited about the Demian Maia Anderson Silva fight. Nobody thought Demian Maia was going to beat him, but there was a clear path to victory for him. And that got people excited because they were like, okay, well, we know Anderson's going to beat all of these other people, but even though he might beat Demian Maia in a way, way worse way, we can all envision how Maia wins. He gets a takedown and then chokes him out. There is an actual avenue of victory here for Formiga, and that is if he scrambles with DJ and can get the back. He excels at that, and in the back, he's a finisher. He fucking put Ben Wen to sleep. So, like, there's a way he can win this fight, and that in and of itself, like, DJ is going to be a minus 900 favorite, but just the fact that he has a real way to win outside of, throw a big punch and hope it works. Like, I'm for it. I'm in on that fight.
Yeah, I dig it. And Formiga's been not underrated, but just like overlooked as far as getting him a title shot. He's deserved it. He's never gotten it. He's had a couple setbacks, but 2 in a row. I think the time is now for DJ Formiga. Unless they do DJ TJ at 135. If they want to do it at 125, no, thank you at all. Do the Formiga title fight. Last one before we are out of here, and thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Who is on the chopping block? Fighter who came up short tonight, who, if we have to say one guy or gal leaves the UFC after tonight, who is it?
Rob Iman in the comments says he thinks Hunt should be cut after this fight. I don't. They're not going to cut Hunt. I sort of think that you could, though. I mean, he's going to leave. I kind of think it would just be better to part ways with Hunt, not to cut him because he's not. It's not like he's going off a bunch of losses in a row. But he wants out. He costs a lot. When we see how much he gets paid for this, I think he's going to make like 800 grand, for this thing. Like I could see them just being like, Mark, we know you. We know you want to fight out. We know that your goal was to take your next 3 fights and try and win the UFC title, and then you were going to leave. You clearly are not going to get to the title at this point, coming off this loss. So, why don't we call it quits, and then you can go try and be an alternate in the Bellator heavyweight tournament or whatever. So I wouldn't hate it if they did that. Other than that, you can cut all these fuckers for all I give a shit. Everyone who lost can get cut, with the exception of Jeremy Kennedy, still young. Ben Wynn's a flyweight. Damian Brown might be gone. But yeah, you can cut Cyril Asker. I think Saparbek Safarov is in fact gone. Li Jiangling probably hangs around. But yeah, cut Mark Hunt just because I would rather see him in Ryzen, in Bellator, doing those things. Cut Saparbek Safarov because Damian Brown probably gets gone. You can cut Mizuto Hirota. I think you should cut Teruto Ishihara. I like Teruto, but he's not had a good run, and I think he's improving, but he just kind of needs more time fighting lower level opposition to kind of build up some reps, some different talent. So yeah, I would cut everyone that lost.
So, I mean, I'm going to take a more serious approach to this, not because everybody who lost.
A serious approach. I'm cutting Saparbek. I'm cutting Hunt. I'm cutting Damian Brown. I'm going to keep.
I shouldn't say serious because, yeah,
I'm going to cut Wilkinson, Hirota, Ishihara, and Abe.
I mean,
I'm cutting all of the prelim fighters other than Kennedy and Wynn.
That's fair. So I mean, the UFC should cut down the roster a ton, but I'm taking this a bit or a more realistic approach as far as who the UFC really will cut. My number one is Saparbek Safarov, simply because he's on 2-fight winning or losing streak. He's been finished in both of them. Second round knockout and now first round submission to Tyson Pedro. He hadn't fought since December 2016. He's not a very good fighter at all, and he's going to be gone for sure after that one, after this loss tonight. So he is the fighter on the chopping block for me. Cyril Asker is not going to get cut because it's heavyweight and because he won his last fight, so it's only 1 loss in a row. Not terrible. Damian Brown has lost 2 in a row. There is an argument to be made for him to be released, but his last fight against Camacho was super fun. It was a great fight in 2017, and his opponent missed weight. So I think he's going to stick around. I won't be, shocked if he's not, but I think they do keep him around for at least one more. You could cut Rob Wilkinson. I don't think they will, just because losing to Adesanya doesn't mean a whole lot to me when you were such a big underdog. And you could cut Hirota. I mean, his last fight was to Volkanovski, 2-fight winning streak or losing streak, but I think they don't cut him just because his last fight was a tough outing that he wasn't going to win anyways. You could cut Ishihara. He's only lost 1 in a row, so all of that in mind.
What Ishihara is, he lost 1 in a row.
He's 1-3 in his last 4.
Yeah,
there's definitely room for him to be cut. Yeah, I won't be shocked. But my number one guy is Safarov. I legitimately think he'll be cut. And if there's one more, I won't be shocked, but I'll say Safarov is my guarantee.
Cut Daichi Abe because he doesn't even have a fucking Wikipedia page. That's my new rule. If you don't have a Wikipedia page, you don't get to fight in the UFC.
Thank God Justin Gaethje had one long before his debut.
You don't get to fight in the UFC if you don't have a Wikipedia page. I cut anyone that doesn't have a Wikipedia page on principle.
That's like half the roster and more, which I'm not gonna complain. But
or actually, I know how we determine who gets cut. I know how we really do this. We go to UFC.com and we look down at the thing, and whoever doesn't have an actual picture of their actual fucking face, if they lost tonight, they go home. Oh shit, they already changed it over.
They update them during fight week, so that process is not working.
Okay. Damn. Well, I mean, whatever for next weekend's event.
You could take
We
a
got we
screenshot
got
like of UFC Austin right now,
there are
and then
three
all of
fighters who
these
don't have
dark fighters
faces.
that lose.
Yeah.
That's how we
Three
determine.
fighters don't have faces, so this is going in for posterity. Souza, Millender, and
Souza's out.
Neal. Oh, Souza's out. Well, she's still on the fucking page.
Yeah, but Holloway was on the page like 5 days after the injury. So
Yeah, well, that was because they're trying to still sell the fucking pay per view. Souza Aguilar's not selling shit. So
Souza's out.
anyway, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, that is it for our UFC 221 post-fight wrap-up. Thank you all for watching. We really, really do appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, give us a thumbs up down there. Drop a comment if you'd like. Any feedback is really appreciated. Whether you like the show, you didn't like it, or you're somewhere in between, let us know in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel already, do please give this channel a subscribe. The button is somewhere around down there. This is where you can find all my other shows, the MMA Circus with Andrew Lawrence and myself, Before the Battle with Jed Meshew and Wes Riddle, and Beyond Combat, hosted by only yours truly, and of course all my interviews. I posted a bunch of interviews, and this is where you can find them. Some of them find their way to Bloody Elbow as well, which is where you can find me, all my MMA coverage. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA, and that is all I have to plug this evening. Jed, let everybody know where they can find you and all of your coverage of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, find me at MMAfighting.com. Follow me on Twitter at Jed Meshew. That's all you need.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the fights tonight. UFC 221, Perth Arena in Perth, Australia. Yoel Romero, not the UFC middleweight interim champion, but clearly the #1 contender if he hadn't missed weight. But it sounds like he will get the title shot against Robert Whittaker. Anyways, although should be noted that apparently Romero has said that he has a broken leg, and so yeah, again, just more fogginess at the top of the middleweight division. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that is all from us. For Jed Meshew, my name is Nick Baldwin, and we're out.